This is a short introduction to Module 2, Phonology and Phonics. So the objectives in detail, these look a little bit different than what you might see in the PowerPoint, are to acquire a basic working knowledge of phonetics and phonology, work with vowel sounds and consonant sounds following the IPA symbols, learn how to teach phonemes, learn how to use visual phonics in a reading and/or ELL classroom, learn how the developmental spelling stages correlate to the developmental reading stages, and then understand how their development kind of occurs in synchrony. These are your readings for Module 2. You will read Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 of Linguistics for Educators. For Making Sense of Phonics, you will read Chapter 3, Chapter 4, and Chapter 5. Great stuff in those 3 chapters on specific ways to teach phonemes and the sounds of our language. Chapter 1 in Bear Words Their Way is kind of the background as far as the developmental stages of the spelling and reading. Everybody's going to be reading this article, Implementing Visual Phonics for Hearing Kindergartners at Risk for Reading Failure. And then for graduates, you will be reading Visual Phonics and English Code Buster. I've read both of those, and I liked them. I thought they were very informative. Here is the PowerPoint that you will be viewing, and then there's some videos on Visual Phonics that might be helpful. I would like to point out that the reading list at the end of the PowerPoint is not correct. Please go by the modules. So the discussion for Module 2 is a choice. There are 4 questions there that you can choose from to answer. Please remember that the responses, please keep them to about 200 to 250 words. But also super important is to respond to at least 2 peers regarding their response. That's always important. Everybody is also going to be completing the self-evaluation quiz at the end. Low stress quiz, just evaluating how well you learned the material. Undergrads, your assignment for Module 2 is to create a video of yourself using Visual Phonics to explain 6 words. Originally, this module said I was going to assign the words, but that's no fun. I thought it would be more fun for you to choose the words that you want to use, and that's fine by me. This is a great link to this video. I know some of you have already seen that, but this does a nice job of just showing you how to make the sounds for each letter of the alphabet. Graduates, assignment 1, you are to create a chart comparing the 3 approaches that you studied from Beck, Bear, and Visual Phonics to teaching sounds. But if you are someone who is very interested in Visual Phonics, I'm going to be honest, I have a pretty superficial level of understanding of this because I'm an upper elementary and middle school teacher. But if you're someone like me who's interested in learning more about this and you're a graduate student, feel free to do the Visual Phonics assignment instead. That is fine with me. The graduate students have an extra assignment in Module 2, and that will be where you are writing a lesson plan based on the Beck and Beck book, the readings from Beck and Beck, or Bear, or if you're interested in Visual Phonics, you could certainly create a lesson using Visual Phonics as well. Because we don't have kids right now, it's summer, you will be writing this lesson plan and then just sharing it with your peer review partner. And everyone has gotten an email by now sharing contact information. So you will write the lesson plan, then you will share it with your partner, and they will give some feedback on that. And then after you have received your feedback, you will, we're asking you to write a 1-page, 1 to 1.5 page reflection that includes what your colleagues liked about it or what your peer review partner liked about your lesson, what changes or suggestions did your peer review partner make, and then other issues that you anticipate in implementing the lesson. Please note that the peer review partners will not change throughout the course, so whenever you come to an assignment that asks you to share it with your peer review partner, we will just use those same partners throughout the course. Module 2 is pretty heavy in vocab, and I know I've shared this graphic with you before, but I really like it because it really helps you wrap your head around how all these terms fit together. Module 2 is the phonetics and the phonology. Module 3 will be the morphology, which is looking at words within the language. Syntax is looking at the phrases in the sentences. We talk a little bit about sentence diagramming there. Then semantics will be the next module, and in that module we talk about the literal meaning of phrases and sentences. And then we talk about pragmatics, which is module 6, and that is where we put the meaning in context. Just a quick overview of some of the vocabulary that you will be running into or reading about, especially in the West book, would be phonetics versus phonology, phonetic transcription, phonemes, phonology, accent, dialect, minimal pair, stress, and that is stress as in syllables, not the stress you may be feeling about this class, rhythm, intonation, and then content words versus function words. There is also a slide in the PowerPoint that I thought was interesting. It kind of also gave you a hierarchy or an order in the way in which we learn phonics, or not phonics, the order in which we learn the English language or languages in general. We start out with phonemes, we go to allophones, then syllables, words, phrases, sentences, and then small text. This is really the order in which we teach them in the primary and secondary elementary levels. And some of this would go into middle school as well. Some reading highlights for making sense of phonics. This is some really interesting stuff, as I said before, because it gives us the order in which we should introduce phonemes. It's important to note the position in the word in which we introduce phonemes. Note that we should always include the letters and even the words that the sounds are found in when teaching phonemes. And then also I'd like you, as you're reading this, to ask yourself why this is best practices for our students in their learning. In the reading for Words Their Way, you're reading chapter 1, and really this chapter is focusing on the developmental stages of spelling and then how they correlate to the developmental stages of reading. I found this chapter pretty interesting, especially if you're a reading teacher or an English language arts teacher, in that they really do correlate quite closely as students progress through each developmental stage. Then the reading in the West book is chapter 7, talks about the places of articulation and how our mouth moves, and the formation that our mouth is in when we say each of the sounds. And this is an area that I used a lot, especially in reading interventions with students that are really struggling with pronouncing sounds or in saying specific words. I mean, you can even literally just tell kids the formation that they need to have their mouth in to say those sounds. So it's good basic information to have, especially for our struggling readers and especially for our ELL learners. So for Module 2, our due date goals would be the discussion post needs to be posted by Saturday, July 6th to give everyone time to reply to at least 2 discussion posts. And those responses are due Sunday, July 7th, as well as the assignments, undergrad and graduate, are due July 7th. The lesson plan for graduates, the extra assignment that graduates have with a peer review and reflection paper, is due Sunday, July 14th. So you get an extra week to complete that. So the last thing I would like you to do, and keep this simple, keep this short, but I would like you to think about Module 2 and everything you learned and consolidate it, and then synthesize a journal entry that shares with me your thinking, your learning, additional questions, comments, connections, and then I will have an opportunity to reply. Email with questions. If you have additional questions, let me know, and I will be responding to emails every afternoon between 12 and 4 or so. And enjoy Module 2.